Why is my breathing?
I don't have mine on yet, but I have it.
Testing. Okay, I'm good, right? Are we ready, Dan?
We're on.
Testing. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Hi, Sean.
Got good audio, John?
Hi, all.
Hi,
Hey, thank you.
Sean.
Oh, I have a headpiece.
Well, I'm not doing this yet.
Have we heard from Lucas?
Maybe not breathe so loud. Maybe not breathe so loud.
That's why.
Try now.
Testing.
Breathe through your nose out. Breathe out through your nose. Breathe out through your mouth.
Let me know when we're ready to call it to order.
Zoom.
Oh, you're ready?
Yes.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a little early for us, but this is a workshop, so we are handling this budget workshop prior to our regularly scheduled meeting at 6 o'clock. I want to call the budget workshop to order and take roll. Supervisor Lee.
Here.
Supervisor Phillips.
Here.
Supervisor Castle.
Present.
Supervisor Chikanis. He's apparently not here or not on Zoom yet. We look forward to him appearing. And Supervisor Kramer is here. So thank you, everybody, for being here and being present today and joining us for our budget workshop. First item on the agenda is audience comments. This is a time for you to address the board with your ideas, concerns, anything you want to bring to us. It's not a time for us to answer questions or back and forth, but to give us the information you want us to have. So is there anyone here who wants to speak for 3 minutes? Yes, ma'am. If you'll come up and say your name and address for the record. We do record everything, so we need you to get on the record for us.
Deborah Pride. And all I'd like to say, and I don't think it'll take 3 minutes. However, if we could do something about the lawn care getting down this road, 5 Oaks. And picking up trash. There just seems to be a lot of litter coming down this way. And not that there's a lot of workers around here. But when the machinery goes over it, it just chops it all up. So I think we need to be aware of that. And if you ever take a walk down 5 Oaks past East Lake in the Enclave, the grass is basically gone. It's just roots showing.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Pride. Could you give us your address just quickly? For the record?
3105 Songbird Circle.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Deborah. All right. Is there anyone else who would like to participate in audience comments? Dan, is there anyone on Zoom that might want to participate?
Sean, and yes, feel free to unmute yourself and speak up if you'd like to, otherwise we'll continue.
Okay, hearing none, we'll close the audience comments and move on to discuss our budget. This will be the 2024 budget. And I will turn it over to our district manager, who has the responsibility of putting together a proposed budget for us.
And did you bring any copies or do we have to access it via?
Can access it there, or Dan has it, he's gonna put it up on the screen.
Yeah, with that little heads up, yeah. Sorry.
While we're waiting for that, I can start. I'm gonna start at your expenditures. Then we go back to revenue. Really, the only thing in revenue that I was gonna point out is your interest. We have it at 30,000, which, I mean, there's other things going on right now. They can put it in that are yielding higher. So I have a thing into it, like they're gonna give me those options. I know one of them definitely is T-bills right now. They're yielding higher. So your interest, we could adjust that. I mean, I would still want to stay conservative, but right now we have it at $30,000. And then the rest is driven by the budget, which would be your special assessments, discounts, that kind of stuff. Access card revenue, facility revenue, and the garden lot. That's really all you have under revenues. All right, so expenditures, Board of Supervisors, left it at $14,000. That's 200 each meeting, so it's $1,000 each meeting. This gives you the opportunity to have that amount of.
But I've never taken any money from my role in the 15 years I've served, so we don't need to include my,
Okay, we can drop it down, but that's where that 14,000 comes from. So, you know, and again, if you have throw in extra workshops or stuff like that, you would be covered, but we can drop it down. If you
Okay.
want.
I don't just like pitch in, God forbid, I don't want anything ever to happen to Carol, but if for any reason something should, or she should have to be replaced, we need that in the budget. So I want to thank her very much for foregoing that. I appreciate that. It does help us out. And, but I think for budgeting purposes, just to be sure that we leave it there, it's not.
Yeah, it's not gonna move the needle. but-
Right.
sorry.
Sorry, I have it, so if you tell me which document you'd like that pulled up.
The Excel one that I sent you.
Okay.
Do board members get paid if they attend either partially or on Zoom or only in person?
The way that this district is set up, again, those are board decisions that you can state how you would like to do it. But right now, you get paid every meeting that you attend, whether it's on Zoom or in person. That's how it's currently set up.
We might want to change that.
Okay.
Sorry, Angela, I didn't get an Excel. I got 2 words and 2 PDFs.
I sent it when I sent
The
it to the
PDF.
entire board.
It's, yeah, it's the PDF,
You
not
can
an
do the
Excel.
PDF Too.
Okay,
but-
it's
but
okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yep.
I'm sorry, we usually do the PDF in other districts because usually the board member is changing it as we go. But I'm doing it. Yes, and if you remember when you were talking about supervisor comments last year, or when someone else was prior on the board, that was a topic of discussion, Carol. If you all wanted to make it, you have to be here in person to be able to collect, but it never went anywhere past that.
Okay.
FICA taxes, that is what it is. Arbitrage, that's for your series 14 and 15 bonds. Your dissemination agent, that's the same. Engineering, we left that at same. Legal services, left that the same. Your management contract is 3%, there's a 3% increase. Property appraiser, same.
Recording secretary.
What?
Recording secretary was next.
Yeah, recording secretary. So, and that again, that's just part of your Infomart contract. They just break it out. So it shows a 3%, and then your special assessment. That's the same. That's all part of your.
Why is it highlighted?
Why is it highlighted?
Yeah, and the PDF, that number is highlighted. even though
Oh,
it's the
it
same.
shouldn't be. The only thing should be highlighting is meeting expenses. Because those are things, I highlighted stuff on there because that's what I want to talk to you about specifically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So-
You're, oh, go ahead.
So for the proposed budget, the trustee fees and the auditing services are incorrectly highlighted? in this?
Yes,
I see. Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
and those are your actual costs. Postage and freight, left that at $1,000. Meeting expenses, I left highlighted at 7,500. You did 3,000 last year. I know you're in this space, but we wanted to make sure you had money in there in case we do have to look for another meeting space and pay for it. Also, in this amount, currently you pay $275 extra a month to Infomart for doing your verbatim minutes.
That's up under recording secretary.
No, we put it in, meeting expenses.
Well, what's a recording secretary?
Recording secretary is the administration part of your Infomark contract. All he did was take the DM and separate it out where you see, hold on. Management consulting, your special assessment. Wait a minute, that's not right.
Yeah, pretty sure the recording secretary was
The
the
minutes.
minutes.
Let me make sure.
And that's supposed to be 275 for up to 3-hour meeting, and
Yep.
we've been getting billed higher than that. So, but we'll talk about that in the meeting.
I don't know where you're getting billed. I haven't seen that. There's been billed more. The recording secretary is 3,300 and that is the minutes. And then we put extra in there. It shouldn't be a 3% increase there. But we put extra, and that's something you'll have to decide whether you want to do it now or in the next meeting. Infomark isn't going to do verbatim minutes. So what we can do is, obviously, you don't pay that whenever we decide to stop, once the board determines. But you will go to a third party if you want verbatim minutes, and that would just be a pass through. So whatever that is. So that's why the extra money was put in there. Your special assessment, that is part of your tax roll and all of that, that Infomark does. Your trustee fees, those are for your bonds 14 and 15. And is there another one? No. So that is that one. Your auditing is by your engagement letter, the auditor that you all chose. Postage and freight left that the same.
Quick question,
Mhm.
the auditing service. I thought we had a 3-year contract at 4,400, but I thought it was rolling over. Do we know if they're going to ask for an increase, or if we're going to go out to bid,
The
or?
one you did, this is your.
Oh, this is our final year?
So next year you will have to go out to bid.
Okay,
And usually they're coming in 4,400 to 4,800, but I wouldn't expect y'all to go any higher because it is what it is.
not much change.
Yeah. But next year you will have to go out for a new RFP, but this is your third year.
Just a question back up at recording secretary. So 3,300 was the budget number, but it says we've spent 4,200
yeah,
or we're projected to spend.
you're projected,
4,200.
but you're not going to because it's a flat. What they do is I don't like looking at projected because they do it different ways. They'll put in sometimes that it's a one-time payment. Sometimes they'll take what you've spent and blow it out 12 months and just put the average out, knowing you're not going to spend that. So I don't like looking at that, but it's $275 a month, Carol. Is what you should be paying unless it's over a 3-hour meeting, then there's a charge for it. So I'll look and.
But but you left it higher in case we have to go to a third party for verbatim minutes.
Correct. And I did use a third party, if you remember, and the price is about $275. I think the highest one I did was. Y'all went a little bit over a 3-hour time limit, so maybe it was like $412, but there wasn't much difference than the $275 if you guys kept it. And there's a bunch of companies out there, so the prices will vary, but the average is about, for y'all's meetings, what you do, and y'all are pretty consistent with your meetings. As far as time wise, and it was anywhere from $275 to $412, and you can be very specific. You know, do you want the uhs and the ums taken out? Do you want them nearly verbatim? Do you want? So there's a bunch of options that you have that the prices are typically that we saw.
And Infomark has made the decision. This is the first I'm hearing that Infomark seems to have made a decision that they're not going to do verbatim minutes.
Well,
anymore.
we were gonna talk about it in your next meeting, but no, I mean, if you guys, we would try to obviously work something out, but right now it's taking about 20 hours to do your minutes. And that is not even counting what your chair does. She actually goes back behind that for another 3 to 6 hours and listens to the audio and does it. So it's like, so for every hour of your meeting, it takes 2.5 hours to transcribe, is essentially what it is, and then you have to review it, and obviously you see still after it's reviewed. I mean, she redlines it, so that's another 6 hours. It's just, it's a lot, and a company would probably be able to do it a lot more efficiently. And
Well,
You know.
there's, AI platforms that can translate,
yeah,
so.
and I wanted to check into Teams also has an option to do it, and so does Zoom, where they do it. So I'm looking into that, and that may be a free service with the membership that you already pay for Zoom. I don't know how good or accurate, they'll be, but I definitely want to put in an audio in there and see kind of what it spits out, because you'll be able to do that inclusive of your Zoom. You have access to that now. So there's a bunch of different options. It's just a lot, and sometimes they're late, like this time. It was just summary. It wasn't even your full verbatim. So we wanted to.
Yeah, you lost a staff member
Yeah,
that
she
used to do
left,
it.
right, kind of in the midst of doing these actual minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So Brenda went back and redid them, but she did summary so they wouldn't be late to you all. So we ran into that before, and and I just want to make sure we're doing the most efficient thing for you all based on what you want.
Okay,
But
we can move on.
um,
So back to meeting expenses.
yes, so anything related to meeting expenses, I also put the campus suite number in here. So when you all decide what you're gonna do, I just put it in here in case that's the route you wanna go, you have it. But obviously between now and the next meeting, you'll be able to say, cut that out. You don't wanna do it. And there is money in there in case you do have to find meeting space that you have to pay for. And I kind of I called a bunch of different, just in the surrounding area to kind of get an average, and $500.
What about the Harmony West recreation?
We have not asked, but I believe Teresa and I had talked about that to see if maybe that was an option. So I'll be reaching out to them as well.
Right, and maybe our attorney might think differently about First Nature Ranch as well.
Yeah. We can explore all those options again, and if not, you have the money in here. If you want to cut it out, totally fine too, but that's why that number's in there. Your insurance. That number, I got from Aegis. Last year we budgeted, 28,000, but 20,000 covers the increase and what your insurance was as of last year. So I'm comfortable putting in just the 20,000. Printing and binding, deleted that. That line will be deleted because you don't do any printing or binding. Legal advertising, put that to 1,200. Just to kind of give you a little bit of wiggle room there. Your assessment cost, that's with the 2% of assessments. I did ask when that increased, and I haven't gotten an answer back on that yet. Miscellaneous contingency, we decided to zero that line out and get rid of it. So that is why you see that. Your field, up there, you see a different number. So Chris went back and looked at everything with your field. Typically it would be a 3% increase per your contract. I held it last year. I didn't do any increase on management or field last year because of taking over and just some change, and we went through all that. So we looked at everything, and from the time that you guys did the contract 2 years ago, we've seen a 25% increase in labor rates alone. So what Chris put in was a 10.9% on your field. And that just covers actually your labor increase. Also, when this was done 2 years ago, there was no account for the minimum wage, gradually climbing over X amount of time. Again, you can talk about that now. We can talk about it in the meeting, however you all want to discuss it. But that's where it should be, and that number brings you to 379.76, which is a 10.9 increase, which is $37,070 to cover your labor increases.
They must have the wrong version. I have 349.
Yes, I just said I changed this after talking to Chris today on mine. It's
Okay.
wrong on Wikipedia, so you're not seeing it.
So it's 379, what?
370,976. And that's 10.9, and the amount is $37,070.
So where are we with field services in terms of, we're projected to end the year with a $345,000 expense for field services, yeah?
No, you'll end at 338,872, which is what your contract is. There's no
Oh, sorry,
overages there.
I'm sorry, I was looking
Okay.
at the total for field and I was including trailer rental. So 338.
That is what, yeah, your current contract now.
So are we anticipating that we're going to have a lot of changes? Because
No, that's strictly just to cover the labor increase that we've had over the last 2 years.
so why is it being raised 11%?
I didn't increase you guys last year. If you remember, I said I was gonna hold it just because of we were making internal changes. It was hard to fill a couple of positions out here, so.
Are we full now?
Mhm.
So is this number, the 338, reflective of what we would pay if we had the same people and paid them the same thing next year?
The 338.
I'm just wondering, because
No, you're already behind. So the 338 doesn't cover the wages that are being paid even currently, Infomark's eating that. And we have, which is fine, and we have no problem doing that, but now we can't eat it moving forward. So that's why you're seeing it. When we took the contract over and 20, May, I think, May of 21. We absorbed your current employees and we brought them over making what they were making. And then we had to increase them the next year because of what they were making and what the current market rate was. And then we had to even increase it more to even get other people to want to apply. I mean, even just to kind of give you a variance, even calling a field temp service, not here, but we use temp services, and they wouldn't even send anybody out unless we were offering at least $15 to $17 an hour. They wouldn't even send us out, whether they were good, bad, or otherwise, they just wouldn't. So labor rates have increased. I mean, we saw it with every company is.
Well, that's the price of living in harmony, wanting to be off the beaten path and out a little further. I mean, even getting some of the repairs when we want them done and things, it's harder for those people to get out there.
It is, but,
So-
and this is strictly, Carol, a labor, it's a labor, it just covers the labor increases. That's it. That's all it does. But again, if that's something the board feels strongly that you don't want to do that.
No, I was just
No.
trying to understand why, if it wasn't raised last year,
Mhm.
it wouldn't be raised 6% instead of almost 11%, which is almost double. But what you're saying is that this number isn't, the 338 isn't reflective of what's
Current.
actually being paid out because of trying to attract employees that replaced other employees.
And then just increase wages, period, for the people that work here. Like Brad's really the only one you have left now that is still hanging around. So yeah, it was to cover those increases and yes, new staff because you can't get them
Mhm.
for what it is.
Yeah, unless something drastically changes.
Correct.
Right, because was it right after COVID was the big jump that, folks that were making $8.50 an hour, then were demanding 15 an hour, and it was
And it
a pretty serious jump.
difficult, because then if the market was to change like we were talking about, which is another reason why we didn't increase, because we thought things would kind of flatten out instead of having some people in positions getting paid that probably shouldn't be paid for that position. So it's just kind of a catch-all, and that's just where we ended up. It didn't even out. It just kind of kept creeping up.
Can I ask one question? When you said,
Sure.
this is on the history of the whole thing, that you took on our employees.
Yeah, Carolyn Teresa could probably give you that. I came in literally as they were signing the contract.
So
to
who
pay
did
the
it
bill.
before?
The board, or
So we had kind of one of these sort of employment shell companies that essentially
yeah.
they were.
They weren't a management,
they
they
weren't
just did
management.
payroll.
They just did, yeah. So you just hired them through, they were employees of that company. They weren't employees of the CDD, but there was no
Oh.
oversight, no management, no human resources, no OSHA, safety, nothing. Zilch.
Okay.
So,
No legal protection.
yeah,
For the
Well, because
CDD.
someone had mentioned one time that we could save money by hiring our own people. And so then I thought we never had, and I thought, well, that doesn't usually work out well, though, because by the time you put in HR and, you know, all the disability insurances and the employments and all of that, and that's why so many companies hire through companies.
Mhm.
right.
So I just wanted to clarify.
And
how
That's
we
it.
did, but it was not a company that provided any,
service.
HR.
it was just essentially a payroll service. As Marilyn said, it wasn't any
So
kind
who
of
made the hiring and firing decisions?
to switch to Infomark.
No, like, let's say you had employees.
Essentially, Gerhart made those decisions.
Okay.
And I think he was pretty much supervised by Steve Ruby
Okay,
and not the district manager
and
because,
not the board of directors
Right.
itself. but- Okay.
because we weren't their employer.
Right, so that's where I was confused. I
Yeah.
didn't understand.
It
that.
was
So
not a
now I
good
get- Now I
situation.
get it, yeah.
It was not a healthy employment situation.
Yeah.
Let me ask a question during this workshop. Is the audience allowed to say anything?
Technically, no. Yeah, it's discussion amongst the board, and again, leave it to the will of the board if they,
Yeah.
Right.
But you are-
Small audience.
I was gonna say it's-
it is.
But you're certainly welcome to call us any time afterwards if you have more that you want to say, yeah.
Yeah,
Because we
or
might
if we
be-
take a break, you can talk to us.
Yes, if we take a.
We want to be fair, and if there are 24 people here,
Yeah.
everybody wants to have a back and forth. It's just,
The only thing was 10.9%. I'm empathizing with you. That is a significant jump. How many layoffs are happening worldwide? Who's not like, some people aren't getting a raise? Because it's just not.
and
And I mean, some people go on a hiring freeze for 5 years.
yeah, and my understanding is that we're not so much building in a raise for our employees. We are helping to make
Backfill.
sure that our district manager who's paying these people because they're their employees are covering the costs for those employees.
Yeah.
That makes sense, because we're not paying them the wages specifically of the field services, we're paying them a management fee and they're paying their employees.
Right.
And right now they're in the black, in the red, because they have been paying out more than our budget was allowing them, was giving them to pay out.
Yeah, but again, I empathize with you that you brought it up, 10.9%. When
Mhm.
was the last time any of us have gotten a 10.9% raise?
Yeah, but they're
That
not,
looks
they're,
singularly,
yeah.
but-
That's over a 2-year period though.
And the employees,
This is why we don't do this.
Yeah.
So I'll call it for now.
right,
Right.
that's what I was trying to say.
It's a raise to it's an increase in fee for the contract that we signed to get employees to be here on site. And we are dropping the trailer rental.
Teresa, I do have a question for you.
Yes.
The trailer rental, can you let me know how you want to go about, I may have an opportunity to sell the two that you have,
Oh,
and if you could
right.
see how you want to go about that as far as
Need to
pricing.
put
it.
that. what we have, right, what we've been doing is the line item for trailer rental paid for the staff trailer and the one container that have now been moved out. So we won't be incurring those costs anymore. We still have 2 containers that we have to get rid of. Because the county does not allow us to keep containers on site here in Harmony. It's against the PD. And we'll be doing a community maintenance facility that will take everything from those containers and store it in there for use. So we'll have 2 containers that have to be moved on site. We have nothing to do with them. But I was in a quandary as to what to do when it came up that another district in Osceola County needs 2 containers and can have them on site. They've been renting them. And they are interested in purchasing them. So the timing is good. What we'll have to do is in the meeting, either this one or the next one, you know, somewhere down the line, where we can actually declare them as surplus and then.
The district manager can take care of it from there.
Right.
Another district's in the same situation as you, been renting them for years and could have already bought.
Yeah, I still don't understand why we were renting that third one. It was confusing, but peace be with it. Water under the bridge. But that cost is out, so that helps blunt the impact of that. Now we are going to have to pay for our community maintenance facility, but that will be out of not our ongoing and recurring costs. That will
Well,
be.
yeah, we will have though a dumpster rental. That will
Yeah,
be-
but that's in a different line item. So we will keep that dumpster line item.
Will it be in a different line item?
There it is in a different line item
Is
right
it
now.
operations and maintenance?
No, it's down under operation and maintenance.
That's what I just
The,
asked.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I can't remember the exactly what it is. Oh, utility refuse removal.
Right.
So. Okay, so we're on the next
Yep.
page for landscaping.
So landscaping, fairly simple here. This is all based on your benchmark contract that started February. Of
First.
23. So your mulch is 77,347. That's one application annually. We're gonna delete irrigation. Because now in your contract, it's 2 inches and under they cover. We do have a repair and maintenance for irrigation lines, so you'll be good there. Your contract total landscape services. So this is, you gotta tell me what you wanna do here. So it's $710,850. That's the contract. But the contract, you're only gonna pay for the budget we're doing, you're only gonna pay $699,567 of that because it's only gonna be for 8 months. Does that make sense?
Why? Yeah, because of the fiscal year
Correct,
difference. between- But why? So why does it say 682 instead of 699 or 91, whatever? it is?
Because I don't know why I left that there.
Okay,
What's
what
wrong?
we need to do for our budget number though, instead of dropping it down, is to take the percentage that's from this the contract line item percentage from that. And in other words, pro rata of the 2 and combine it and put the accurate number in there. It is easier to look at. Again, this one line item, total landscape services, includes all the other yellow highlighted items.
Correct,
So if you go
Except
back
for
to,
landscape replacement other.
correct.
oh, yes,
Yeah,
that's sorry.
Just the ones that are.
Just the ones with the dash. So that folds all that. So that will be easier to read so that when we get the contract dollar amount, it'll match. It's instead of trying to figure all these different numbers. So do we have the number?
So what
the
is
actual number
total
that will
landscape
be?
services number now?
The total for your contract is 710,850.
Is that for which year though?
That's year
No,
2.
um,
That's year 2 of your contract.
Okay,
I'm asking what the budget, the annual budget, the proposed budget for 24 is under total landscape services. Since the other numbers may be incorrect, what's the total number now?
710,850.
Now, that's just
No,
year
that's
t-
Total landscape services under contracts, which is the third line item. I'm talking about the bottom number,
Other,
total landscape
But,
services.
okay,
At the bottom, the sum.
we need to change those.
22. one minus. Carol.
Thank you.
No, yeah, she was gonna.
But
Total.
let me check.
Mhm.
So the number you just gave us earlier for the line item under contracts,
Total landscape service.
total landscape, and we need to change that name if we're gonna use, or change the bottom name. One or the other has to change,
Because it's too confusing, because they both say
Yes.
total landscape services.
right? But that for year two is, give it to me again, 7,
Year 2 of benchmarks contract is 710,850.
But because it's,
but it's actually gonna be a little less than that because year one is carrying over into FY 24.
That's why I said.
Okay,
you
It
can
is
choose to
six-
pay $699,567. That covers 8 months that there's gonna be that overlap.
okay, so you
Year one.
prorated those two,
Correct.
699.
So I'm asking you, do you want to insert the contract amount for year 2, or would you like me to put in what you're actually going to be paying, which is the $699,567?
the latter number.
Okay,
That's my,
That makes
my
sense, yeah.
suggestion.
Yes.
I
it
don't
should
see why
be.
we should put in the whole number if we're not paying the whole.
Right.
number.
Then the same thing would be next year would be to.
you'll prorate, that is
Mhm.
correct, because you're gonna have a new number for year 3, and it'll be the same overlap because we started this in February.
Okay.
And then to clear up the confusion about total landscape services,
Mm-hmm.
at the bottom number is highlighted, the bottom one, there's 2 of them. The one under that's highlighted, it could be total of landscape services.
Or it could be the one above, could be instead of total landscape services, combined landscape services. Something, but it's got to
I
be
will do
different.
Whatever you would like. Contracts dash what?
General landscaping.
Or combined.
Combined landscape services.
I'm not making any decisions in this meeting, so Angel, you pick what you want.
So-
We're not allowed to make decisions.
Just differentiate it so
Okay,
that
got it.
when we're
Just get rid of the word total,
Got it.
Where does-
In one or the other.
and then the bottom is total.
That's right. Then your annuals, that is obviously separate, like your mulches, that's
Mhm.
14,000 for 4 rotations. We're deleting out trash and debris because that's in your landscape services above. Irrigation, we left the same at 30,000. You're spending a lot more than that right now, but had talked to Brett, which means, you're having a lot of major stuff done right now, that there shouldn't be some major
So
stuff.
if
So-
we're having a lot of stuff done and we're spending a lot of money, why is the total projected for this fiscal year only 14,000?
Because you haven't received some of those, and what they do is take what you're spending currently and blow it out over 12 months. So that number, that projected number changes every time you get your financials.
Like, for instance, Carol, we approved what was the NCE?
25,000.
Yeah, for 25, right, when benchmark took over, that hasn't hit, so you're at 14 now, plus your 25, you're already gonna be over your
35.
Yeah, and see, our actuals are through February, not through
March.
April, which we should. Which would make it easier to figure.
I can change that. Financials right here.
Well, I don't know. If you change it that quick, I'll be real confused.
Yeah. I won't-
But it does show
Yeah.
that we are over in several areas that do not show over here.
Correct. Your
Okay.
financials is where we need to look for that, and which we'll go over
Mhm.
too, about where you are right now compared to your budget amount and where you should be. I'll state that once we get through
Okay.
this.
And even though we're looking at all these, there's really not a lot of wiggle room here anyway.
Not so far, and
Right.
I'll let you know how it all shapes up in
Right.
a few
I mean,
seconds.
we want the place to look a certain way, our residents
Right.
want it to look a certain way,
It's based off of your expectations.
and this
of
is
the
what it
revenue.
costs, right?
Well, and
Except for a vocal few.
again. Again, it was almost $200,000 increase in landscape services
Yep.
Mhm.
to get better landscape services. So, that's going to be a big change from last year's budget to this year's budget.
Yeah, yeah,
And we have the last line item, landscape replacement other, which
Yes, I highlighted that, because again, I bumped it up from 35 when we talked about all this before. That includes your landscape replacements, your fire ant treatments, and your sycamore tree treatments, that line. Also, you know,
Refurbishment.
Mhm.
you're gonna be able to do.
I was
anything.
tasked with, but
Yes.
it's gonna be limited as to what.
So
we can
that's
do.
why I left it highlighted in case you all wanted to change. I meant it for it to stick out to me, so I could make sure you guys knew where that number came from. Your electricity, your utilities, so generally we're seeing a 5 to 7% increase. So that is why that number went from 40 to 43. Street lighting, 121 to 129. Water and sewer.
Yeah, now wait a minute, the 124 to 129, we're seeing for the new development of the enclaves added another $500 a month, so that's 6,000 a month. I'm sorry, a year, thank you, 6,000 a year.
Way off.
Oh, that would be a hit. And we're gonna have another
North, like,
development probably coming on, which would probably be another,
It won't be next year though, right?
they're
Yes, it
moving
is.
Budget year.
in
Well, I guess it's
2024, yeah.
It's- The roads are paved and how long?
Yeah, they don't, it takes a while for them to turn stuff over, but if it's gonna be here at any point during your fiscal year, whether it's the last few months or not, then yeah, we definitely need, and I did not account for that one.
Yeah,
well, maybe
so
just raise it to 131.
yeah, because the 124 up to 129 isn't even 6,000. If my math is right. And that doesn't include any increases in what they're charging us, which it looked, when I last looked at it, it looked like they're creeping it up.
Yeah, track pay's not in here, so you're off probably about $10,000.
K is the enclaves, right?
Or is that
yes,
J?
You know them by tracks.
Yeah.
Yes, I have a list of tracks, I don't know their names.
I'm pretty sure it's the.
Yeah, it is.
That's K.
But that's the-
Mhm.
So, but that's what we're talking about.
So we
which
need
is
to add the
$500 a month.
6,000 for the enclaves. And then another at least 3,000 for the other new development. So that's not, so bump it up another 10,000. So to 139,470.
134. No?
No, she doesn't have the enclaves. This is,
Oh,
Is that
yeah.
L over here?
No, that's,
The new one.
that's North Lake and this, the enclaves is K. But if we're adding $10,000 to the total projected budget for 2023, that would be 134.
no,
The 24 budget line, not the projected.
because we need a bump up for increase that OUC is going to hit us with
Well, that's the,
I had
for all the other
129 in
lighting.
I see what you're doing. So it's the 6,000 for K, it's the 3,000 for L. And then it's another.
A percentage bump
increase
For
cost.
OUC's
Yeah,
pocket.
increase of cost, yeah. And you did the same thing with water and sewer.
Correct. Well, yes, I'm sure.
I was just gonna say real fast, I went look at the actuals for irrigation and the agenda packet for April, still 14,274, so that NCE on our irrigation repairs is not paid yet.
Thank you. Communication telephone, we're deleting this line off of there, so you don't have to see it. Utility.
They pay for the telephones.
Yeah, sorry.
Infomark does.
That's why.
That was a savings. That was a
Yeah,
good-
refuse removal, that's your dumpster. We did increase it. So I don't know if we need to increase it more for your new community maintenance facility or not.
Why?
Why?
That's what I'm asking. I don't know if there's any reason to increase it. I'm sorry. But I meant to direct it this way.
Well, no, I'm just saying, if we're gonna have a dumpster is not
Yeah,
there, right?
moving
Why-
on wherever they have.
Getting matter of questions, go keep the same size dumpster or whatever.
Sensitive.
I think we should get a discount for not having them ride down that road.
Are you gonna keep the garden dumpster in addition to the field service?
What we've talked about is we have several trailers. And putting sides on a trailer so that you're not going way up to dump in a dumpster. So that we have a trailer that you can dump into, and then every so often when that fills up, our guys can dump it in the dumpster. Does that work, Brett?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All right. So your ponds, repair maintenance ponds, Buckley, this is your chemicals that. This is your chemicals and also your Buck Lake treatments that you are committed to. Or obligated, whichever. it is.
And we didn't get an increase in the Buck Lake treatments.
Even though our projected total for the year is under 12,000, we're putting it at 20,000.
But this is also, I'm sorry, Brad, spraying your invasives too, those chemicals too, that you'll start seeing.
Well,
Because we haven't been because of the.
Well, yeah, most of last year we didn't purpose
A bunch of chemicals.
the amounts that we normally have.
that's for, yeah, spraying the ponds for, and which reminds me,
But also the invasive plants.
I think we have an invasive follow-up down there.
Yes, we
Well,
do. 105.
We do, but that's not what that's for.
Oh, that's for.
Which we can change it if you all feel like it. That's, we'll get to that in a minute, but all the chemicals that are purchased for the pond spraying, any spraying that's done, your invasive and all of that, and Buck Lake is coming from that R&M ponds Buck Lake line.
Should probably be removed then.
We can do that. Once we
Yeah,
decide down here what
okay.
you want to do.
you may want to be sure that that's where that, because I've seen some of the invasive stuff being down here in the other light item, I thought, but
Yeah, no, the only thing that is, and I'll double check and get a report on what's coded to that line item, but invasives and follow-up. That was for what you did with, what's his name, Snively?
mhm.
That is all that should be coded to that line currently. Now moving forward, yeah, the monitoring fees from Catherine, everything with your invasives, but no chemicals or anything should go there. That was just purely based off of them coming in and doing it.
Pools, is this,
Okay, sorry, where are we at here? Up here, pools. $2,000 we left, or no, that's not.
35,000.
That is your two controller leases at $95 a month, and then all chemicals through Pool Shore that we
Mhm.
get to treat the pools. That's what comes out of that line. And any little thing that needed to be done at the pools, if there's a crack top,
isn't the splash pad in here too?
I believe so. That is
So that-
inclusive of your.
yeah. Which has been mighty pricey these days.
Yes.
But what we're doing really should come under reserves.
It should, yes.
For the splash pad stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Everything that we've been spending on the splash pad should be coming out of reserves.
we can absolutely reclass everything for splash pad, the major stuff we can.
And in terms of budgeting for future. If we have to repipe everything, that should be coming out of reserves in case we've got.
Well, that repiping is coming to you this evening, so.
Would you like me to reclass anything for the splash pad so far to reserves? that-
Well, going back up to ponds and Buck Lake. Probably ponds, Buck Lake, wetlands. You know what I'm saying? Because
Well, and I really stress for you guys to double check this. Because this includes our hydrilla treatments and stuff like that. And right now we need a treatment on the waterside lake for the floating out a major algae outbreak. So
So you're saying you think we should put more than 20,000 in there?
either that or keep the wetlands, the invasive, the conservation areas under a separate line item.
I'll do whatever. So
So-
let me tell you what my notes, because I have everything here. So your invasive / follow-up down there, repairs and maintenance, we put 105,000. Okay, that was based off of, oops. In case they got away from Brad, or it was too much and you wanted to hire a company to come in and do it, we got pricing and it was based off of $95,000 for Mr. Snively to come in and wipe it out again, or if you needed to do a different section, and then, we put money in there, some ancillary money in case something else was needed, but that's where that number came from.
Probably part of it was to pay Catherine Bowman.
The monitoring,
Right.
correct. It was that whole package again that you paid for before, but this would be another one-time follow-up, come in and do it and then monitor. So that number is what you all need to discuss, kind of what you want to do.
Okay, whether we separate that out, put
Correct.
all conservation area
Mhm.
cost in that one.
Yep.
Or put some in the ponds and lake.
Does it really matter where these numbers are though? Because it's all in the fine print at Infomark, their records, everything is spelled out more directly.
It is, but it's very helpful for you all, and like accounting is gonna take this budget when we're done. And they're gonna create your financials for the next fiscal year, and it's gonna mimic your budget. So if you're wanting to look at what you're spending for invasives, you can look at it. Pools, you can look at it instead of going, okay, well, now can I have a report in detail of this line item and see what did we actually put into this
Mhm.
line? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
Plus, in the notes, in every month's financials, there's usually something that describes what.
Right.
So you're saying that if we, the question is whether we include the chemicals for our own field services guys to spray in the conservation areas, if that should be under ponds, Buck Lake / conservation areas or wetlands or whatever, or it should be under invasive / follow. That what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I kind of like that invasives, because the only thing we do in our conservation area are invasives. We don't go
But that's
do.
what we also do in our ponds and Buck Lake.
Well, yes and no, in like the algae are not considered an invasive. They're, yeah. And those are not natural areas. The pond isn't, the lake is, of course, but so that was the reason I had it in my head to break it out, but
there's no good way to do it in the end. I mean, because the numbers just won't work for you that way, because some of it that's repair, some is maintenance, some is, so you're gonna get tangled up. Is what I'm saying, no matter which way you go.
right.
And if someone wants to figure something out specifically, how much did we spend on XXX? They're gonna have to go through and piecemeal it out, no matter how much you try to put it in the right lines.
Okay, I just,
Yeah.
I have tried to piecemeal it out and
It's
it works a lot
but
better
it-
this way than
Well,
trying to
yeah,
dig
you
from
still-
scratch.
You still can't, it depends on what you're piecemealing out.
Mhm.
So anyway,
So, but whichever way you all want to go. If you want to do it up here in Ponds and Buck Lake. You're sure the 20,000 is gonna,
So.
I mean, he's out there. What, he's out there 3 days a week or
I think
4
it's
days a
3
week?
isn't it?
Brad,
well, that's, so is this $20,000 include the wages for Brad to do
No.
this? So see, now already we are off track, not off track,
It's
but
just chemicals.
you're not getting an accurate number. of how much
trust
it's
me, I'm
costing to do
following
that.
those. I'm following
Yeah.
hours allocated to which.
But I mean, you still have to piecemeal to get an accurate idea of what something is costing.
Yeah.
But it's, so 3 to 5 days only for ponds and, Buck Lake, or is it also for the conservation areas?
No, it's
Just for conservation areas.
conservation ponds.
The ponds aren't kept in the same log though as the conservation areas,
They're
right?
not, but
Okay.
People stop frequently on ponds, like the one just mentioned on out there today, catch name, like, oh, they're gonna go out like tomorrow or this weekend after he gets his stuff on and treat those areas.
Okay,
So, So this 20,000 includes what's been spent on the ponds and the lake, and it also includes additional treatment for invasives in the conservation areas.
Chemicals, yeah, that's correct.
You shouldn't be doing it down Barclay.
No, we
No,
pay.
but we pay a vendor for, we split the fee with Harmony West. Yeah, not his time.
Biosphere actually does show up.
Okay, so we're gonna add conservation areas to ponds, Buck Lake
Yeah.
and conservation areas.
So,
And they're all wetlands.
ponds, Buck Lake. and
No, we
conservation.
actually have some uplands. Conservation. Well, we haven't accepted them yet. Water side, it's between Middlebrook and Feathercrest.
So pond / Buck Lake / conservation. We're gonna leave it 20,000.
Mhm.
Okay, and then your pools, we went over that, roads and alleyways, again, that's 2,000 in case there's, asphalt patch or whatever.
Right.
Anything small that needs to be done that staff can do. Sidewalk panel replacements, we left that at 20,000, we just.
Why isn't that panel replacements under reserve renewal and replacement? Why is it under operations?
That's an ongoing,
Yeah.
that's an annual type thing, ongoing. These are all annual expenses. This isn't gonna be done 1 year and wait 5 or 6 years before we do it again.
Well.
Every year, every year.
Replacing the same panels.
No, but we're gonna be replacing it needs to stay here.
It's like 77 miles of sidewalks.
Yeah.
It's gonna be an
So
ongoing.
typically what happens is you can grind them so many times, after you grind them so many times, they have to be replaced, whether they're popped or uneven or not. Their first thing is to go out and grind them, and then I think you can grind them again, was it like 2, maybe 3 times you can grind? 3?
Those last two.
Yeah.
So
So all I'm saying is the replacement part
Mhm.
could come under renewal and replacement instead of.
Well, just be aware that you're running out of money in our reserve fund for
You guys
renewals.
deleted that out last year too, by the way.
Yeah, we took it out and put it into here.
You took out renewal or replacement and sidewalks and alleyways out of your budget.
Yeah.
Out of your general
Yeah,
budget.
that was probably appropriate to be someplace else until our trees have grown so much that it's an ongoing.
So we have reserve other, but we
Mhm.
removed renewal and replacement in sidewalks and alleyways under reserve in the budget. Those are the last line items under operations.
Right.
Right. Your reserve other though, that's essentially.
All your
money that-
reserve study items.
Yeah, and that is your contribution to your reserve.
Right.
From your general fund, so that 300 is gonna come out and it's gonna go over there and y'all can. Essentially, what you did was you just created one reserve account instead of earmarking certain things, now you can use it for however you see. fit.
Splash pad,
Correct.
total rebuild of the splash pad.
The things you guys need, we just priced one, it's $300,000.
What?
Yeah,
Yes.
didn't we just do that at Celebration?
For a brand new splash.
You shaking your head there. Yeah.
No, I think Russ.
Oh, it's not a final number?
I actually Googled it one time when we were
Mhm.
after one of the meetings, and 300,000 is,
Yeah.
it would cost a fortune to replace that.
Yeah, you ran it like.
Yeah, it's.
Right, no, but I mean, it's
Yeah.
very expensive proposition was my point.
Okay, so invasives and follow-up, you wanna leave that at 105?
Wait, we skipped a lot. Let's go back to vehicles, equipment.
Oh, yeah. we need to run those lines, yeah.
That's repairing.
Anything,
And then-
yes. Anything having to do with your equipment back there, pressure washers, mules, vehicles, all of that stuff. Goes in this line,
Mhm,
and we left it at 15,000.
okay, the Polaris repair.
We deleted out RV storage lot. Equipment and boats, we left that at 10,000. I have here some trolling motors, I think you just bought a few of those.
Yeah, to
I
the
know
tune of
there's some stuff that
1,300.
Needs to be reupholstered and all of that, so. Yeah, Again, left it at 10,000. Parks and facilities,
And again, let me interject. I'm not sure why this wasn't updated, but it's obvious that things have not been coded properly on a lot of these line items, and Infomark has assured me they're going to go back and revisit all the coding, because I know we spent a gob amount of money on our equipment and boats, and it just isn't showing anything at all being spent so far this fiscal year. So a lot of that stuff got dumped somewhere else, and I think it's in parks and facilities. So that needs to be pulled out.
Yeah, I was wondering why that number was so high for parks and facilities.
Yes. That's because a lot of not parks and facility stuff has gotten coded in here.
Brett seems to think your equipment and boats line needs to go up higher than 10,000.
We have bought so many new things and renewed so much, Brett. Do you think we'll have all that more to do next year?
They're boats.
They're boats. They're the hole in the water you throw money into.
And they sit in that hot sun.
Now you got covers for them now, right?
We got seat covers, correct, but like we're fixing to replace one of the trolling motors on the pontoon.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be around $3,600, so. Still 2 more pontoons that don't have new trolling motors on, so if those fail in the next year, you're right there.
Yep.
More than 50% of your $10,000 budget, then you have batteries, you have. Any services to the mule or the Polaris, the UMAX, all automatic.
No, that's under, no, we have a vehicle.
Take it back.
We have 15,000 in vehicles and equipment, and 10,000 in disposal.
Now we are, yeah, we're getting ready to replace paddles for, I think, the
Kayaks.
kayaks and a couple of other things, but. Okay, so parks and facilities.
To be that high for parks and facilities if things are getting this coded.
Can't tell you that.
You do spend a lot in there, but your parks and facilities, essentially everything that the guys need to go and do any repairs goes to this parks and facilities, and it's pretty much everything. Material, any of that kind of stuff that they go and purchase goes to this.
And that includes the pocket parks.
Yes,
Includes everything.
So when we replace sidewalk panels in the pocket parks, we're gonna
No, that's under sidewalk.
Yeah.
see if I
Does that
can.
include the garden beds? Cause there's a bunch gonna be.
That's
Yes,
good.
all that
Yeah, all
goes to,
Parks and facilities, or do we put that in the garden lot?
no, what we put in the garden lot, because there's certain things the district is responsible for doing in the garden lot.
Okay,
And the rest come from these nice people. And,
okay, so garden, the piping and plumbing in the garden and the actual structure for the bed, not the soil in it, but the structure for the bed. And the exterior fence, not the fencing on individual lots. Those things come out of parks and facilities. Is that what you're telling me?
yeah, when they go buy material, if they have to go and lay
Okay.
down the new wood or whatever, that would come out of parks and facilities.
And then the garden lot, 2,000 that's before that, under that. That is stuff that they need.
Tools, wheelbarrows, chemicals.
Correct.
For, okay,
Mhm.
all right.
Anything but except the infrastructure.
And all that does is a wash from your garden lot revenues. That's
Right.
all it is. They spend what they bring in. So everything that's in that 2,000 are all the receipts that she gives me for
Mhm.
that.
And then they supply a lot of
If I don't
free
spend
labor.
it all, is it carried over?
We talked about that, remember,
Yeah,
the way
I
your
heard so.
legal, the way the district's legal set it up originally is what you bring in, you have to spend. And it
But-
does not carry over.
But I was told last year it would.
Well, that's a question for our attorney.
Yeah, I think that was
why it's
different. It was different back then because. Yeah, it's, we'll talk to our attorney about
And
that.
we can fix that if it needs to be, it's super simple. Your invasives, again, that's what that money was for, you wanna leave it in there, in case you have to do something. And you very well could, you know, you got one guy out there. or
Yeah.
two,
And we got in trouble because we were not
And that stuff
able to
grows
keep up with it.
fast,
Mhm.
so. again,
And if for any reason we take on any more property that needs to be treated.
Well, and the thing is, if it's in here, then we've got it covered. If we don't use it,
You can move it to reserve.
Reserve.
right,
That's
right,
very
so,
simple.
Okay,
I mean, my philosophy with budget is you put in a high number. I mean, reasonable number.
Correct.
Right.
But
Yeah.
doesn't mean you have to spend it, and so, if that money, if we don't spend it, but then something else happens.
Our goal
then-
is to beat budget every year.
Right,
That's our
right.
goal,
Right,
so,
so,
okay.
light poles, we left that the same,
Yeah, OUC handles the actual lighting fixtures. We're responsible for the poles. Is that what you figured out?
yep, under the maintenance.
Okay, and then we do have some poles that are cracking at their bases, so we need to start looking at the availability of and what they cost and things like
And
that.
that should be under.
Miscellaneous services.
Yeah, we could,
You deleted that out. Miscellaneous contingency, we deleted that out. Security, this is 5,700, I gotta figure out what we need to do with that, because that was for your internet back there. But there's also been a question, now the garden club and everything else that's back there, now they're not gonna have internet if I cut it off back there.
Well, I don't think-
Security was.
Then our cameras are no good.
Exactly.
So what are
So
we gonna do about that?
that's a decision you all, I haven't cut anything, but you need to understand that trailer's not back there anymore, so.
But I thought security was for the cards. and
it's
that
for
sort of
gates
stuff.
and,
Gates.
but it was also for, the internet was used to run the cards in the gates.
You're billed from Spectrum every month, and I have zero idea why it was always labeled security.
Security.
Because when I first started doing your budget, it threw me, and I'm like, security, you don't have security. And it is the internet back there and
Cards. and-
your access cards and all of that, all of that.
Gate
goes-
repairs.
Yeah, the gate, the RV lot gate, all that stuff was coded to this security.
Pool gates and the,
Mhm. Yeah, anytime the gates go down, locks and all that stuff, it's to this line item.
so the security at the garden club is.
It's their cameras and stuff, but they were running it off of the district's internet that was back there.
But that's the $100 and some a month.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
probably, I don't know what it is, but
Yeah.
yeah.
And so now what is the garden? do?
Well, it's not gonna change your price, because you're still paying for internet at the pools and stuff, but my question is. Spectrum, I'm assuming, is gonna wanna come and remove their router back there.
well, no, it will change the price because we pay for 3 different internet
No, I'm
services.
saying for them,
Oh.
to whether to provide it for them or not is not gonna change your price. I'm just gonna have to drop that back there. And that will lower your overall price.
Right.
Then they're not gonna have any kind of router unless I say leave it, and then your price isn't gonna change. That's what I'm saying.
Do your cameras, your new ones run off of internet, but they can also run off of cards, right?
I'm just texting Christina. who
Okay,
set it up
to
for
issue.
The IT guy. And ask her.
Okay.
If there's another alternative.
Did you all know Marilyn was up on a ladder installing those cameras?
Oh, my goodness.
No,
Huh?
we didn't hear that.
You
So
installed
the-
those cameras on a ladder.
I don't hear that.
Okay.
The security line,
I was
again,
there that
if we
day.
leave it in there. Until we can figure this out, it's not gonna move the needle.
Right,
on the
right.
budget.
Right.
Right, well,
Yeah.
that's exactly my point, and, the garden needs the security, I mean, I would,
Yeah, we had some thefts. not too
oh,
long
I
ago.
know.
Well, yeah, but you're not
Plus, you
gonna
guys
be
need to
in,
have
you're not gonna
safety
be in the
on it.
middle of the night monitoring it on
No,
the
no.
internet. We could, if something happens, you'd pull the card and look at it like we used to,
Yeah.
but we won't have you up on the ladder.
Oh, she likes it. You were trying to say something, Dan?
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, well, and long term, the new facility is what, 800 feet away, so there might be a way to piggyback again in the future.
Yeah, I'll let Christina, she's mine.
We'll get some of the tin cans in the streets.
Okay, so we can make it through the rest of this before y'all's meeting.
Yeah,
Have a
'cause
little bit of a
it's
break,
Getting
but
close.
Oil, supplies, fuel, again, that is what it says. Left that the same, you've done fine there. A lot of this hasn't hit, because a lot of times Coded, so you're gonna see some movement in some of these
Yeah, they're gonna
actuals. is
fix
what
the
I mean.
coding.
Capital outlay in vehicles, this is highlighted. I left that in there for a new Polaris or golf cart. Again, that's something that you all need to determine. We can take that out, we can leave it in. But you,
Now,
already
when
did.
the Polaris is back now? On its way?
It was back.
it got delivered, started up, and there's something wrong.
So
Yeah,
let's leave this
definitely leave it
15,000
in
in there.
And that literally just happened, which is
Mhm.
why you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I understand.
Your reserve other, that is your contribution. I left it the same as what you did last year to start building that up again.
It almost feels like we need. Exactly. I mean, I look at the upcoming,
Did y'all look at the attachments that I sent? That showed kind of where what's still outstanding for this fiscal year and then what's on your table for next, and then you got David's nice package today. So again, you might want to consider that number. I just left it as it was last year. I can tell you if you want to know real quick, if we were to leave this budget exactly the way it is, and you don't make any changes to what we just went through, you're at an 8.7% increase. Just in your O and M, overall, you're only at a 4.3.
Because of the bond.
Correct. So overall, it's, what do we say, 60 to $200 from low to high? I don't know why I charge it to you.
Well, they got.
per residence,
Yeah,
$50 to $200 rates.
Offer on a smaller lot, and then as you
Yeah.
go inside the lot, obviously.
I wish more people understood those because, this is very interesting because I've had so many people tell me theirs went up $3,000 last year.
and it's not
It's actually less than that, because then.
significantly.
Well, I
less.
think 350 was the top.
Yeah. So if you just want to play around like this reserve number, if I was to put 500,000 in. Your assessments go to 17.4% increase in O and M and an 8.6% increase overall.
Yeah.
400?
What's your numbers?
We just had a 20-something
Yeah.
percent increase last year.
But Carol, that was a maximum of $350 for a home.
13%, Dan.
So if people are saying
And
that
that-
went up more than that, I mean, it's public record. You can go online and look and see what everybody's increased. It's on the tax
I
website.
understand, but percentage wise, it was still 20-something percent.
Well, yes.
But
I
that was
know.
because we hadn't had an increase in
So
how,
it depends on people, how people want to look at it. Yeah, I paid 0% for 10 years.
Right,
now I'm
so-
paying 20.
And we have the, there's that document with the, reserve for the next couple of years and all that. I have it on the screen, so.
It's
And
also,
you need to keep in mind too, you're about to take a huge hit to your reserves.
Yep.
With the alleyway. So after your $647,000 project, you're only gonna have a couple $100,000 in your reserves.
and the fence was falling apart.
Oh, my.
Well.
so again, and. If you looked at the numbers for the community maintenance, now I'm pretty sure it's not going to come out quite that high. But if you go with the dog park, his estimate is $350,000. Because there's a lot of site work that has to be done and a lot of other stuff. Again, if you go back to the lakefront, he's got it estimated out at 88,000. I think it's going to be lower than that because, yeah, I don't know that we're going to have to do much.
Well, we've.
rubbing
got the
and
budget, so
tearing
we'll
and-
never can decide on that.
Well, no, we have to consider that that's a must do. We've got to do that.
Right. And I meant in terms of whether we want the big. one.
Right, which one, but
Right.
understand those numbers are critical.
Oh, right.
So,
But the bottom line is we have a fiduciary responsibility to the residents. And I am not opposed to an 8% increase.
oh, I'm
because-
not, I mean,
I
I think
mean,
it needs to be.
Yeah, I mean, things have gone up everywhere. People are entitled to make enough money when they work. And if we don't take care of things, yeah, we can put off taking care of the boats. Well, next year they all dissolve and fall and sink down to the bottom of the lake. So we have to take care of these things.
And
So where do you want your reserve to be? Again, I had it at 300. I just did the assessment detail. Dan asked about 400. If you put 400 in there, you're at 13.1. Just in O and M, but overall, it's a 6.5% increase.
well, unfortunately, nobody ever talks about overall, so let's
Nope.
stay with the O and M. I would like to see, I think for the district to be fiscally sound, knowing what we're looking at in the reserves and everything, that it should go up more. But I don't know that this coming year is the time to do it. We'll have an extra 300,000 to put away. Hopefully, if Brad's able to keep up with it, we'll have another 100,000 that we can transfer to reserves from the invasives. Work hard, Brad. Which would give us about the 400,000.
Yeah, we'll give you.
So,
Yeah, another way to look at it is, there's people living in Harmony now, getting the benefit of these things. And if we don't raise the price now, it's the people who move in the future end up paying for it. Because like the people who lived here before and sold their houses before we made the big increase last year, they never had to contribute toward all of that. So I think keeping it on an even keel, and there's approximately 2,000 homes.
is there,
I mean, it's a rough estimate. $100,000 is $50 a home. So if we charge each person, I mean, not charge, but
home? Mhm.
so $50 per home puts another $100,000 in our budget, in our revenue, in
Okay,
our reserve. Can't get the word out.
all right, so I think this is the only,
Okay.
And then hoping that we don't spend as much as we need and we can shunt what we don't spend toward reserves.
All right, so leaving it at 300
Mhm.
and everything that we just went through line for line, you're looking at an 8.7% increase in O and M.
Okay,
And what if we did 400,000 instead of 300?
It was 13.1.
That's another 5%.
Yep.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah, that's what I just did when Dan asked if I was to put your contribution at 400,000. It brings your assessments to 13.1% increase.
okay, well. I'm just thinking of the splash pad, because that's gonna be a big chunk right there if we're not able to get that one fixed.
Mhm.
And that'll wipe out the whole reserve.
No.
No.
I think that's, I mean, we have numbers for complete replacement. And
We're not gonna do a complete replacement, I think.
yeah, that's,
Like, yeah.
I think the bigger
Yeah.
item is where the maintenance facility ends up.
That's gonna
There's a
be,
big variance there, so if we do end up more expensive option.
Okay.
I don't know, I'd feel better if our reserve contribution was at least covering for that eventuality of it, maybe being the more expensive option. Maybe, I mean, maybe, definitely not 5, that's, way overkill. 4 might be too much, maybe 350, that is getting too nitpicky with our.
I can tell you what 350 looks like. $10.9.
I like that.
You like the 10.9?
Well, I don't like raising.
I mean, I
that's-
understand.
not at all.
Love it.
So,
No, I think we have 2 people who are at 400 or 350, or 2 people who are at 300.
well, we'll see when the dime drops.
Where do you want me to leave this?
That's what we're.
Do we have to decide that tonight?
Leave it at 300 now. We make that decision
In the meeting?
in the meeting.
Sure.
So I think we're fairly all in agreement with everything else,
The only
but that
contingency-
one thing. So that will be the decision maker. And now, any other comments, discussions? And we will, if not, we'll go ahead and end the workshop and take a 10-minute break before our meeting starts. Okay, hearing nothing, we're gonna
We ended it.
break.
Thank you. All right,
Great.
Sean, thanks. I'm gonna cut this off, so it'll be a separate recording and see you in the regular meeting.
The cameras, we're all set. We can take the SIM card out and so we don't need the internet.
Okay, awesome. See, look there. What?
Well, there goes our experiment. Without even trying. Instead of presenting a percentage of this, I really think we should aim more towards cost per residence.
Well, that's what people.
Oh, sorry.
But I think our problem was we didn't gradually increase it every year, and I
Yeah.
think that's what needs to be done, because everything goes up. So if you do it 1% or 2% a year, I mean, that's understandable and unitary, so. But that's just my.
And I need to disconnect you from the meeting just to, so it'll be a clean recording and you'll be able to reconnect to this phone. So.
No roll rates. Nobody has any roll rates.
I know. Now, they might use dusty in the bottom of my purse, but I'll take the top one and then I'll have.
We'll see, yeah.
So, yeah, I'll put one in the. I came prepared, Carol. I'm using my hand and my mouth is going.
Oh, look at that. Look at the little medical.
Can you eat those? Can you keep it going?
Just have